I just feel like one of the most slept on types of video content is voiceovers. They build connection, they help tell a story, and they are so low lift because you don't need to be on camera to create them. So in this video, I'm going to break down everything you need to know about voiceovers in VoiceOver 101. And I'll show you exactly how to confidently script, record, and edit your voiceover content. First, let's start with your gear setup. And honestly, you don't need any really fancy equipment to do voiceovers. You can do a voiceover in literally any editing app. The only thing that I look for is that when I'm recording my voiceover, it has all the tools I need to start, stop, restart, and to see my voiceover as its own track, which I'll talk more about later on in the video. So you can use a mobile editing tool like maybe InShot or CapCut or Premiere Pro Mobile, or you can even do this inside a tool like Descript, which all of you know is my favorite editing tool for desktops, what we use for the agency. So you can essentially just record the audio in Descript and then add the clips on top. A mic isn't required, but it definitely is very helpful since the audio is such a big part of the video. Crappy audio can definitely ruin a voiceover video. I usually just use one of the lavalier mics that I already have, like my Rode or DJI mics, and I will literally like clip them on or hold them. But it's really important. You'll see in videos where people are like holding their mic really close to their mouth. We don't want to do that. They're not made for that. It will blow out your audio. So I will literally clip it, even if I'm doing a voiceover. It helps keep the distance from my mouth and the mic at a consistent level. You also can literally use an old trusty dusty, like traditional headphone with the cord situation. Those are really great, but like I said, do not like pull the mic towards your mouth. I know that's like what people do. It's like a visual hook. Don't do it for great audio. Like the audio will not be great. But when in doubt, you want your mic to be at least a hand's distance away. Example, hand's distance away. The next is scripting your voiceovers. And there are a few different ways to approach this. So my recommendation is to test both or to lean into whichever one you think you're going to prefer. The first is to script your voiceover word for word. This is why this type of content can be so low lift, is you can literally map out your hook, your main points, exactly what you want to say so it lands. This is one of my favorite things to do when we're working with clients or if I'm doing content that's requested from my agency of myself for our own content. Or I really love to do this when I'm doing brand partnerships, mainly because you ideally want them to approve your script ahead of time so there's no back and forth on what wasn't and should be included. But it also helps you land on the perfect timing for your video. So often I will put a voiceover script inside ChatGPT and be like, hey, is this gonna be like long enough, short enough, so I can stay within the required amount? This is also just really helpful in general if you don't wanna like ramble and tamble and have like a 3-minute long voiceover, which doesn't make sense for most content, especially short form. Another way I've been using AI to enhance my voiceovers when I'm scripting them is I will often use like Claude or ChatGPT and I will brain dump what I am envisioning for the voiceover. So maybe I'll like add a bunch of notes and ideas that I have. Maybe I'll actually do like a mock voiceover and like add the audio into whatever AI tool that I'm using. And what I love is that it really helps me tighten up my voiceover so it really tells a good story. It's really concise. It kind of removes any fluff. It also helps me keep it within that 60-second time period since I find that is really like the sweet spot for really great voiceover videos. So that's been something that's super helpful that you can kind of use if you need some help with scripting. But this just makes it easy to nail your takes and to hit everything that you want in the most succinct way. The next thing, which is what I've always recommended in like my Talking Head 101 video, and that is to outline instead of scripting word for word. So I just like to bullet point my main things that I want to cover. Maybe I script out word for word the intro, the outro, but for the most part, I'm going off vibes. And I essentially ad lib as I record. Adobe flew me out to the world's biggest creative conference, and it was incredible. But can we talk about the part nobody shows? This really gives you the room to add in personality and some flavor into your voiceovers, which I feel like is really where they shine compared to other types of content. So typically, if I'm just like doing a voiceover style video for myself, this tends to be what I do, especially if it's more of like a behind the scenes kind of moment.
Everybody posts the highlight recap reel, the keynote moments, the parties, the aesthetic conference fits. And
So now let's get into recording your voiceover. I feel like people fall into two different camps, and for me, I kind of base it on a case by case basis. The first option is to record your voiceover before you add in your footage. And then essentially you can pick and choose the clips that you're adding on top of your voiceover when you're doing all of your editing. And this really supports the scripting method of recording your voiceover. So you can script it out, record exactly what you want for the audio, and then pick and choose the perfect clips to go with exactly what you're saying. And this can make the editing process a lot quicker. And of course, this is what we do for our clients. They'll send over a voiceover and we use their B-roll library to fill in the blanks from there. And the alternative is going off the vibes, right? This is when you're adding a voiceover after you have your footage, which is when adding in the ad lib moments, musings, and kind of that personality really can come in and shine. So let's say you're doing more of like a vlog style voiceover video. You can pick and choose exactly how you want your video clips to look. So maybe you start with like a visual hook, and then you're getting into the chronological order of what happened. You're picking your best clips, you're trimming down what you don't need. You're essentially finalizing the flow of the visuals. Then you can go in and record your voiceover on top of that. So maybe you have things you already know you're outlined to mention, but it allows you to take what you're visually seeing and actually share your thoughts or what's happening in that moment. And a tip if you're going to use this method is I actually like to keep my clips a little bit longer to give me some buffer. So when I record my voiceover, I can just trim those clips down as needed. So now I'm going to get into some quick tips to help you create better voiceover content. So we're getting into workflow, but also a little bit of strategy. These are the things that will make your voiceover videos more engaging. The biggest mistake I see people making with voiceover content is they narrate exactly what people are watching instead of using their voiceover to tell a story. If you're doing a vlog where you're sharing a workday in your life, or for example, when I did my first brand trip, I vlogged that. I wasn't like, hey, so I got off the airport and then I walked to the hotel and then here's day one and here's what I did next and this is exactly what we ate. Like people can see that. You don't need to tell them that. Instead, you want to say how you're feeling, your thoughts, your feelings, your musings, or even just talk about a topic that's maybe related to what people are watching, but actually have nothing to do with what they're watching. For example, I did a video where I shared a bunch of video clips from my trip to Iceland, and my voiceover wasn't like, hey, so this is what we did in Iceland, and then we went here, and then we went on the glacier. Like, I didn't do that for the voiceover. I actually talked about something that was related to that, and that was like taking time out of office, taking time away from content, having healthy boundaries with content. It was related to the video, but actually not related at all. When you're scripting your videos, when you're doing your ad lib, your vibes moment, you're looking at your footage, do not narrate. Go farther with your voiceovers and you will see such better results. You don't want to do the here's day one of my retreat. It's I cannot believe this happened on day one of hosting my first retreat. There's such a big difference when you're telling stories and connecting with people. The next thing is to actually record in chunks. And this really applies to any type of video content, but especially voiceovers. I think people feel the pressure that they have to record the audio perfectly in one go. And that's just not realistic, even if you're reading a script. So I like to just pause, do retakes, and even just record chunk by chunk versus feeling like I need to get it all in one perfect, succinct take. This is why it's really important wherever you're doing your voiceover edits is that you have it as a separate track, because this is where I will trim that voiceover track. I will maybe have it overlap a little bit. That's a really great hack for adding in a little bit more pacing to your videos. This also allows you to trim out the pauses, the breathing, which naturally happens a little bit more in voiceover videos, that like people don't want to hear you doing a big breath. We don't need that in the content. The next tip to keeping your voiceovers engaging is do not ramble and tamble. We do not want that, especially if you're going for the vibes. But even if you're scripting out your video, what are the most essential things that people are going to care about in this voiceover, knowing you can always add on in your caption or with the visuals that you're sharing. When it comes to the audio of your voiceover, but also the visuals that you're choosing, a hook is so important. That's why you want to start your voiceovers more about like why they're going to care, what we're going to be talking about, what they can expect, and less about what is visually a little more obvious. A really fun way to do this visually is to actually start your video in a non-chronological way by actually starting with like a cliffhanger or a preview of what they're going to watch.
Adobe flew me out to the world's biggest creative conference, and it was incredible. But can we talk about the part nobody shows?
This also allows you to pick the strongest visuals, which is kind of what my other tip is really focus on picking the right B-roll clips to go along with your voiceover. So I almost always will try to have those first 3 clips of my voiceover video be of me or my strongest shot. And the same thing happens with using this as a hook. So what is like a cliffhanger moment or a really funny moment or a really like crazy moment or the result of what they're going to see at the end of the video? Start with that. You don't always need to make it chronological. In fact, that kind of makes it a little boring. Add in a little pattern disruption. And when you're picking the video clips that you're going to be including in your video, whether you're picking the clips and then adding the voiceover or adding the clips after the voiceover, you want to make sure that the visuals are supporting what you're saying. Even if it's not exact, maybe it's the emotion, maybe it's something like that. You want to make sure that things are as cohesive as possible and you're not just plopping a voiceover on top of random footage when you can help it. And most importantly, don't be afraid to experiment with the formats of your voiceover. Voiceovers work for tutorials, for telling stories, or even behind the scenes, more building and public style content like vlogs. So just know you can take this format and really apply it to any idea that you have for your videos. I am so excited to see what voiceover content you create from everything that I shared in this video. Definitely let me know what was your favorite tip or the thing you're most excited to try. I hope you've loved Video 101 so far. We've talked about talking head, B-roll, even editing hacks. So definitely let me know if there's anything else you want me to add on to the series. I've already noted down a scripting 101, so that's a big request in the comments. So definitely let me know what you would want me to cover next. And if you haven't already, I highly recommend starting with part 1 of the series.